Once upon a time, in a small, picturesque village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a woman named Eleanor Bell. Eleanor was not just any woman, she was wise beyond her years, and her presence was felt like the warm embrace of the sun. At the age of 86, Eleanor had lived a long and fulfilling life. She had raised 3 daughters, Anna, Beatrice, and Catherine, each as different as the seasons, yet bound by blood and the home in which they had grown up. Eleanor's home was an old, sprawling estate, weathered by time but still standing as proudly as when it was first built by her late husband. She had always been a woman of few material needs, but her house was filled with memories, antiques, and treasures passed down from generations. Over the years, Eleanor had seen her daughters grow distant from each other, each too absorbed in their own lives to notice the subtle changes in her health. The once lively Sunday dinners had faded into occasional visits, and the warmth that had filled the home in their youth had long since cooled. On a quiet autumn evening, Eleanor passed away peacefully in her sleep. The news of her passing spread through the village, and soon her daughters returned to the home they had not seen in months, each arriving with a heavy heart, and, though they wouldn't admit it, an eye on their mother's estate. Anna, the eldest, was a meticulous woman. She was a lawyer by trade, fiercely independent and driven by success. Her mind was always on practical matters, and she viewed life through the lens of logic and reason. When she arrived at the house, her first thoughts weren't of grief, but of what needed to be done: arrangements for the funeral, the reading of the will, and, of course, dividing their mother's estate. Beatrice, the middle child, had always been the free spirit. She was an artist who lived in the city, surrounded by abstract paintings and eccentric friends. She viewed the world through vibrant colors and emotions. To her, the house was more than just a building, it was a place of nostalgia, filled with memories of laughter and childhood games. But even she could not deny the thought that crossed her mind: what would become of the property? Could she use her inheritance to finally build the art studio she had always dreamed of? Catherine, the youngest, was the most sentimental of the 3. A schoolteacher by profession, she had stayed the closest to their mother in both distance and spirit. While her sisters had gone off to chase their careers, Catherine had remained in the village, visiting their mother frequently. She had taken care of Eleanor in her final years, and though her love for her mother was pure, she too wondered if her devotion would be rewarded. The 3 sisters gathered in their mother's drawing room, now cold and silent without her presence. They exchanged awkward pleasantries, each aware of the tension simmering just below the surface. As they waited for the lawyer to arrive for the reading of the will, the sisters began to bicker. "Mother always knew I was the responsible one," Anna said, her voice crisp. "It only makes sense that I handle the estate. I've dealt with enough legal matters in my career to know what's best." Beatrice scoffed, her arms crossed as she leaned against the grand piano. "Of course you'd think that, Anna. Always so practical, never a thought for anything but money. This house means more than just bricks and mortar. It's a part of us. Well, maybe not you, since you barely visit. How dare you?" Anna shot back, her face reddening. "Just because I have a demanding career doesn't mean I loved her any less." Catherine, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. This isn't what she would have wanted. "Mother loved all of us. Can't we at least wait until the will is read before we start tearing each other apart?" But the tension had already thickened, and old resentments began to surface. Anna resented Beatrice for her freewheeling lifestyle, Beatrice resented Anna's cold pragmatism, and Catherine, though she tried to keep the peace, felt the weight of her sister's disregard for the sacrifices she had made. After what felt like hours, the lawyer arrived, a solemn man with graying hair who had known Eleanor for many years. The sisters gathered around the large oak table in the dining room, and the air was heavy with anticipation. Each of them imagined what they would inherit. Would Anna get the house? Would Beatrice receive the family heirlooms? Would Catherine be rewarded for her devotion? The lawyer opened a leather-bound folder and began to read, his voice calm and steady. I, Eleanor Bell, being of sound mind and body, hereby bequeath the following to my 3 beloved daughters, Anna, Beatrice, and Catherine. The room grew tense, the sisters leaning in, holding their breath. The lawyer continued, to my eldest daughter, Anna, I leave my most prized possession, my journals and letters. In these pages are the secrets, dreams, and regrets that I have carried throughout my life. Use them to find the heart you've hidden beneath your success. May they remind you that wealth is not always measured in material things. Anna's face froze. Journals. Letters. She had expected the house or at least some monetary inheritance. She was a lawyer, a woman who dealt in assets and tangible value. How could her mother leave her? Words, to my middle daughter, Beatrice, I leave the family's treasured paintings and artworks, not for their value, but because I know you will understand them. These works have witnessed our family's joys and sorrows, and through them, I hope you will find the balance between your free spirit and the roots you've often tried to escape. Beatrice's expression flickered between disbelief and disappointment. Paintings. She already lived in a small apartment filled with art, much of it her own. She had expected something grander, perhaps the house, where she could create her own gallery or studio. Her mother had left her with things she already had in abundance. The lawyer paused for a moment before continuing, his eyes softening as he read the final part of the will, to my youngest daughter, Catherine, who was closest to me in both distance and devotion, I leave the home in which you grew up. You were the one who stayed, who cared for me, who reminded me of the love that a family can hold. But know this, Catherine, this home is not to be kept as a monument to the past. It is a gift of the present and future. Use it not to dwell on memories, but to build new ones. Open its doors to those who need shelter, comfort, and care, just as you opened your heart to me. Tears welled in Catherine's eyes. The house. She had inherited the very thing her sisters had likely assumed they would fight over. Yet her mother's words were clear, the house was not just a possession, but a responsibility. It wasn't to be kept as a treasure, but to be shared. The lawyer then closed the folder, but before the sisters could speak, he read one last, unexpected line, finally, to all 3 of my daughters, I leave this message, you are each more alike than you know. Though you may have grown apart, you are the best of me in different ways. Find your way back to each other. The inheritance I leave behind is not just in things, but in the bond you share. Do not let it die with me. For a moment, the room was silent, the weight of Eleanor's words hanging in the air like a thick fog. Anna, Beatrice, and Catherine sat in stunned silence, each processing what their mother had left them. Anna was the first to speak, her voice uncharacteristically soft. Journals and letters. I never knew Mother kept such things. She looked down at her hands, feeling a sting of shame. She had been so focused on her career, so absorbed in her own life, that she had missed the deeper connection her mother had wanted to share with her. Beatrice, ever the emotional one, broke into a bitter laugh. Paintings. She left me paintings. I already have more art than I know what to do with. What am I supposed to do with these? But even as she said the words, she knew deep down what her mother had meant. Those paintings were pieces of family history, stories in color and form, and she alone had the eyes to see them for what they truly were. Catherine, still wiping away tears, spoke quietly but firmly. Mother was right. This house isn't just a place, it's a home. But it's empty without the people who fill it. I don't want to live here alone, and I don't want to keep it for myself. Anna and Beatrice looked at her in surprise. Catherine, the one who had cared for their mother the most, was offering to share the house. I think, Catherine continued, we've all been a little selfish in our own ways. But Mother's right. We need to find our way back to each other. We've lost that, haven't we? In the days that followed, the sisters took their mother's words to heart. Anna began reading the journals and letters, discovering the depth of emotion that had always been hidden behind Eleanor's calm demeanor. For the first time, Anna understood her mother's sacrifices and the love she had shown in subtle ways. She realized how much she had missed while chasing success. And slowly, she began to let go of the coldness she had built around herself. Beatrice, inspired by the paintings, started to create a new body of work, one that captured the essence of family, love, and loss. She saw in those old, familiar paintings the stories of her ancestors, and in her own work, she tried to bridge the gap between the past and the present. It became her most personal and meaningful project yet. Catherine, with the house now hers, decided to turn it into a refuge, just as her mother had wanted. She opened its doors to those in need, offering it as a sanctuary for the lost, the lonely, and the broken-hearted. And slowly, the home became filled with life again, laughter echoed through the halls. And warmth returned to the hearth. The three sisters, once so divided, began to visit the house together. At first, their meetings were tentative, but as time passed, they found themselves talking more, laughing more, and remembering what it was like to be a family. They shared stories of their childhood, of their mother's quirks and wisdom, and through these shared memories, they rediscovered the bond that had been buried beneath years of distance and resentment. Eleanor Bell had left her daughters more than just material possessions. In her final act of love, she had given them the chance to heal, to reconnect, and to carry forward the true inheritance she had always intended: love, understanding, and the strength of family. As the years went by, the sisters grew closer, and the house became a symbol of their reunion. It stood as a testament to their mother's wisdom and the enduring power of family, not just as a place but as a feeling that lived in their hearts. And so, the legacy of Eleanor Bell lived on, not in the things she left behind, but in the love she nurtured in the hearts of her daughters, a love that would carry them through the rest of their lives, and perhaps, pass on to the generations that followed.